Today we're going to be talking about a very important topic, standing your ground instead of backing down. I know this can be really hard for you, especially if you've had struggles with someone who was toxic in some way, narcissistic, someone maybe that put you down. Maybe in your past you were used to being manipulated or put down, or you were neglected. So it's been a struggle for you to not be a doormat, not be used. And I totally can understand how hard this topic is and how hard this video might be for you to really digest. If you're new here, my name is Michele Paiva. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about yoga, and we're not going to go very deep into it. You don't have to be someone that even does yoga, practices yoga at all, but there's something called an asana. An asana is basically in yoga, it has been thought of as the posture you're in. And in fact, many people that practice yoga, many teachers of yoga, think asana means the posture that you're in, or it relates to posture because it's often added to any of the movements through yoga. So Utkatasana is a certain type of movement with posture, okay? So there's all different types of words with asana in it. But asana actually means really to sit. And the idea of asana or all of yoga is to get to a position where you can meditate. And the point of meditation is to get to enlightenment. So before we talk about standing for yourself or standing up for yourself and not backing down, I want to go a little bit into this sort of mindful lesson so that you can better understand, because when you go through this lesson, it's going to be much easier for you to stand your ground. So let's backtrack a little bit and look at, let's pretend you're taking a yoga class and you're going through a lot of different movements, and it's, Trikonasana, Utkatasana, all these different movements, postures, okay? And really, the point of all of this is so that you can get to a meditative state. So you breathe in a certain way. And in fact, the breathing is the only thing that changes the idea that you're doing yoga as opposed to stretching. So if you want to stretch, you can stretch, or if you want to make it more yogic, you focus on breathing. Why would you focus on breathing in yoga as opposed to just stretching? What would the benefit be? It doesn't mean that you're worshiping anything. And I know there's some people who really feel strongly against yoga, but it doesn't mean any of that. In fact, real quickly, if you can use a candle to worship God, but also candles are used to worship the devil, the candle's not the problem, right? It's the person doing it. So yoga's the same way. If you want to use yoga in some way that you deem is negative, that's okay. If that's what you want to do. But for the most part, yoga is just a sense of getting to a place of enlightenment. And we'll talk about that because it's not a spiritual thing. So you're going through all these postures and you're focusing on a meditative space, and now you have to incorporate breathing. So having a very focused breathing is what makes it yoga as opposed to just stretching, because you can stretch and you can have your mind wandering all over the place. You can stretch and actually really stretch yourself out while you're stretching, depending on what you're thinking about. But if you're in yoga and you have to focus on a certain type of breathing as you're moving through the asanas, the postures, you are more apt to stay focused on yourself, on your breathing. We come into this world with breathing, and the last thing that we leave is the last breath. So we have the first breath and the last breath. And everything in between is the quality of our breathing. So the best place to do that is on the yoga mat, to learn how in tune you are with your breathing, because you really don't think about breathing unless you don't feel well, usually, or if you're working out really heavy. So that's really one concept of, and I'm not going to go into details because this isn't about yoga right now, but this is about understanding how to get through being walked on. So hear me out. So now we have our breathing that we're adding. Now, if you've been abused, if you've been neglected, if you've had all kinds of trauma in your life, if you've been treated poorly in any way, shape, or form, your breathing is going to be different. You might have more anxious breathing, so more shallow breathing, quicker breathing. Your pulse rate might be a little higher. You might think anxiety is just a way of life. You might think depression is just a way of life. You might swing back and forth between feeling anxious, kind of feeling okay, feeling depressed, not being motivated, overeating, overworking. You might go from impotence, which is really the idea that you're not really doing anything, to potent, where you're doing too much and not striking that balance in the center. So your breathing is going to help you to get there. This is why there is breathing connected to yoga. All of this is to get to a meditative state. So the idea of an asana as being just yoga postures is really simplifying things and quite elementary, because the idea of yoga is to get to a place of meditation and enlightenment. This is why there's a savasana at the end of class, and that is why often in yoga they say savasana is one of the most important movements in class. In fact, child pose in the beginning and savasana at the end are the two most important places you can be in yoga. Everything else in between is just getting you out of one place and into another. And that other place is where I want you to be. I want you to be in clarity and calm. When you are clear and calm, you are more confident. And when you're confident, you set boundaries and you stand your ground much more easily. By the way, this in no way, shape, or form takes away from prayer, believing in God, being a born-again Christian, being a very good Jewish person. None of that takes away. None of this is taking away. And in fact, if anything, it will strengthen whatever your belief system is, if you have a belief system. If you're agnostic or atheist, so be it. Just look at the science of it. But the bottom line is, you feeling really bad about yourself is not the way that anyone should feel. So God doesn't want you to feel that way. So if you're a Christian, God doesn't want you to feel bad about yourself. God wants you to love yourself. Your life is a gift from God. So how does enlightenment, although it sounds like it's really like out there and very hippie trippy, it's not. Enlightenment. Okay, two words here, or enlight. Light actually just means being aware, being light and being without stress. And en just means within. So really, enlightenment and meditating and getting to enlightenment is not about, being like in this like trippy state. If that's what you want to do, you go for it. But enlightenment is only about being stress-free from within. Asana is very external, right? We do this with our body. So we get to this place where we are sitting. It actually means sit. So we're getting to this place where we're sitting or being still, and we are working on getting to enlightenment, being stress-free from within, but we have to be aware of our surroundings. Most of our lives, we're focusing on externals. You might be focusing on money or your relationship or your past relationships or what's going to happen next week and the world, politics. When we have all of this external, that's the asana. That's where you're physically moving and you're creating breath and breathing that is vocal. You can hear the ujjayi breathing. You can hear the pressure on your vocal cords. You can hear all of this. You can feel it. You can be more aware, because you have to be aware as you're breathing and moving through postures. So how does this really come to how you're going to feel better about not being walked on, or deal with the person in your life who might not be treating you of value? Maybe you're dating or married to someone who isn't treating you the way that you should. Doesn't mean you're going to have to leave that relationship. Relationships can go through ups and downs. And even if you've had, 5-10 years of it not being so great, never say never. I mean, don't stay in an abusive relationship, but maybe the relationship has a chance and you're going to be very happy. Bottom line is, the happiness is from within. Enlightenment within. Take away stress. Stress from within taken away. So we need to get you to that place. It's not about how other people treat you. And I know that almost everyone else on YouTube is really into, a lot of these coaches are really into pointing the finger at everyone else. And the narcissist does this and the narcissist does that. And then the borderline does this. And really it comes to the moment that you realize this non-attachment to how people treat you. So that's more of a Buddhist focus of non-attachment. The more you can focus on non-attachment to, do they like you? Do they not like you? Do they approve of you? Did they have issues in their lives where they treated you horribly? The person you're with right now, is the way they're treating you really about you, or is it really about them? So the more you can get away from the attachment that everything is about you and that you deserve this kind of abuse or negativity, the better you're going to actually feel. So number one, we have to get you to a place of non-attachment. How do you get to non-attachment? Well, you know what? Going through some postures that are stretching. I don't care if you call it yoga or not. Go through some stretching movements and focus on your breathing. Deep inhale and exhale very slowly as you're stretching. Keep doing that until you just are like making deals with God that you want it to be over and you want to sit down. That's when you sit down. Suddenly you're very thankful, filled with gratitude that you're not moving that much anymore, and you're just really relaxed. You've kind of wrung out all the stress in your body through movement, at least on a physical level. And in that moment where you're sitting down and you're praying or you're meditating, and you don't have to meditate, you could just pray. The moment that you're sitting down and you're focusing on your inner voice and what is truly important to you and truly how you feel in the moment, that's where you start to get to more enlightenment. That's where you start to get to more shedding the stress that has been within and taking it and letting it escape, letting it release. And I know this sounds crazy because a lot of us will say, of course I want to release my stress. But you know what? We hang on to our stress sometimes because it defines us. We see ourselves as neglected or not worthy. We see ourselves as not worthy of love. We see ourselves not valued enough to have a higher income or get that raise or to strike out on our own if we want to be self-employed or a million other things. So I want you to start thinking about, what do you really think about yourself? You might start crying when you really go through all of the movement and sitting down and really just focusing. Now, for some of you, maybe you don't want to do stretching. Maybe you want to go for a good run. Or if you're not very fit, if you haven't been doing much lately, just do whatever it is that you can. Just do a couple of leg lifts and then just sit. Do something a little extra today physically, and then right after it, just focus on sitting with how you feel about yourself. Sometimes you're going to work out and feel bad about yourself. You're going to think like, I just worked out and I don't feel like I worked out enough, or I realize how out of shape I am, or something like that. When that happens, that's actually more about how you feel about yourself than the activity, because many people work out and they are challenging themselves. That's normal. So if you are working out and you feel less than in some way, it's really telling you, it's highlighting to you, that's the enlightenment. The enlightenment there is showing you right off the bat that this is how you feel about yourself. Listen to the self-talk that you're giving yourself. You've probably heard all of these things or been treated this way by someone in your past. It's time to let that go. It's time for you to love who you are, to love who you see in the mirror, to honor your life. You have this gift of life. And if you do believe in God or source or energy, you need to think of yourself as a gift from God, a gift from source, a gift of life. If you start seeing yourself as the gift that you are, it's going to be very hard for you to not like yourself, right? So a lot of times people will say that they're very religious, but I'm sorry that the lighting keeps getting weird. I'm in front of a window and whatever. So a lot of times people will say that they're very religious or they're very spiritual, but they have a lot of anger and shame and guilt and a lot of negative emotions wrapped up in who they are. So I know that everyone practices religion or spirituality usually because it gives them some kind of a purpose and sense of peace. So continue doing that, of course, but start to really take it up a level. If you truly believe in God or that you are interconnected with all things that are alive and beautiful, how can you possibly not love who you see in the mirror? You are a work of beauty. You are a miracle. So I would love for you to comment below on, what is it that you need when you're sitting down quietly? Do you feel like your mind's racing too much? Do you feel like you're having too much negative talk? Or do you feel really good when you do it? Do you need a certain time of day? Tell me more about what you need. So we're going to put this into practice right now, just really quickly. Put your hands in prayer position, thumbs at heart center, roll the shoulders just a little bit, and get the name of a prayer or just the sound of Om in your throat. So maybe Hail Mary, Our Father, just the sound of Om. And I just want you to roll the shoulders, and then I want you to focus on what it is that you need, how you feel like you are being walked on, or how you feel like you are being misrepresented as a person. And I want you to just focus on your breathing now. Now, if your health allows, if your health permits, I want you to keep your mouth closed and only breathe through your nose. But I want you to constrict the throat just a little bit naturally so that your breathing sounds a little bit like an ocean. So it sounds like a little bit of an ocean wave. And as you're focusing on that breathing, I want you to imagine that you are a miracle, you are a gift, you are filled with light. And when I say filled with light, you are actually physically filled with the sunlight, the moonlight, and you are light in stress. You don't have cares. You have all of the answers within you, and you deserve to be treated with value and respect. And I want you to roll your shoulders, take a big inhale, exhale, stretch the arms way up over your head. Stretch the fingertips towards the ceiling and the sky. Slowly bring your arms back down into prayer position. Inhale, bring the arms up towards the sky. Fingertips are stretching, thumbs towards the back, pinkies towards the front. Bring everything back down into prayer position. Roll the shoulders. Focus again on that breathing. Open your eyes. Place both of your hands over your heart. Feel your heart beating. Feel the life energy. Feel this science. Feel the spirituality. Feel your soul. You are everything. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to be loved. Bring your arms up over your head with your arms straight and your eyes open. Bring them out to the sides as if you're getting ready to give someone a big hug. Bring your arms around. Hug yourself. So right arm to left shoulder, left hand to right shoulder. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Bring your hands back to prayer. Roll the shoulders and say out loud, I deserve to be heard. Say out loud, I deserve to be valued. Say out loud, I will stand my ground. I have the right to be heard, to be free, to be respected. Hands in prayer and focus on gratitude and compassion. Bring yourself back to a prayer or the sound of Om. Subscribe, ring the bell, and I have another video for you.